Again, welcome everyone to the session, Fearless by Rebecca Minkoff, the new rules for unlocking creativity, courage, and success. This session is going to be recorded, so please mute yourself, but feel free to have your video on. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll call on you after I've done the introduction, and or type the question in the chat box. Again, the Troesh Center has a Canvas page, so feel free to email the email that you received the Zoom link. It will give you access to that Canvas page if you don't already have it. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Rebecca Minkoff, an industry leader in accessible luxury handbags, accessories, footwear, and apparel. Her modern bohemian designs are inspired by strong, confident, and powerful women who embody the effortless, free-spirited lifestyle. After developing an affinity for design while in the costume department in high school, Rebecca moved to New York City at age 18 to pursue her dream of becoming a fashion designer. In 2001, Rebecca designed a version of the I Love New York t-shirt as a part of a 5-piece capsule collection, which appeared on The Tonight Show and became an overnight sensation. In 2005, Rebecca designed her first handbag, which she dubbed the Morning After bag, aka the MAB. This iconic bag ignited Rebecca's career as a handbag designer and inspired the brand's expansion into a lifestyle brand in the years to come. Rebecca's success was further accelerated by the support of her brother, the company's CEO and co-founder Yuri Minkoff, helped usher in and pioneer the company's industry-leading innovations with technology and fashion. After 4 years of designing statement-making handbags and accessories with trademark leathers, studs, and hardware, Rebecca returned to her roots of apparel design and introduced her first ready-to-wear collection in 2009. You'll see Rebecca, I'm wearing Talia right now. Today, Rebecca's Minkoff is a global brand with a wide range of apparel, handbags, footwear, jewelry, timepieces, eyewear, and fragrance. In 2011, Rebecca won industry recognition where she was awarded the Breakthrough Designer Award from Accessories Council. She's an active member of the CFDA and supports multiple philanthropies such as Every Mother Counts, Baby to Baby, and the Fashion Foundation. In December 2018, Rebecca launched a podcast, Super Women with Rebecca Minkoff. The podcast focuses on the incredible stories of resilience, failure, and successes by luminaries such as Katie Couric, Bonanza St. John, and Jessica Alba. The podcast is consistently in the top 100 of her categories and has launched the hashtag Superwomen tribe across the world. In September 2018, she established a Female Founder Collective, a network of businesses led by women who invest in women's financial power across the socioeconomic spectrum by enabling and empowering female-owned businesses. This organization has grown to over 9,000 members and supported women-owned businesses by giving them access to education, networks, and mentorship. Companies in this collective have gone to raise over 15 million in seed funding and taken their companies to higher levels of success. As of 2021, the global fashion designer became a best-selling author of her first book, Fearless, The New Rules for Unlocking Creativity, Courage, and Success. And this book chronicles Rebecca's story of hard work and determination with valuable life lessons that work as a roadmap to meet challenges and overcoming fear. Rebecca is married to director Gavin Ballar, and they reside in Brooklyn with their 3 children. So again, thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming to joining us today.
Yes, of course. My pleasure. I didn't expect you to have to read the whole thing. I apologize.
So the first question we had, or I'm going to start off the discussion again for students, if you feel free to type in your questions in the chat and or raise your hands and you can ask your questions directly, is there are many entrepreneurs worldwide. So what motivated you actually to write a book?
I think what motivated me most to write a book was I did a podcast and the host, Nicole Lappin, is a very well published author, mostly on the financial space. And she just said to me, you should write a book. You should write a book. And I was like, oh, a coffee table book on the history of handbags. Like, that is boring. Who needs that? And she's like, no, you have, 16 years at the time or 15 years of hard-won advice in this business space. I'm sure it could be about business. And we began to talk about what that would look like. And I really began to think that that was something that could be of value, and especially for anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur. We get held back by fear. So in no way is this book a self-help book or a mental health book, but really it's about me giving you some basic, easy fundamentals that help you hopefully take the risk. Doesn't mean you're going to be not scared. Doesn't mean you're going to be fearless. It just means, okay, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it anyways, because these are my foundations that I can sort of lean on. So that was kind of the goal of the book. And yeah, I had no idea, when you see these authors that are like, woe is me, this is so hard. I was like, this is going to be easy. How hard could this be? And it was not only incredibly hard to bring the book just to the point of getting published, but then launching a book is a whole other story indeed, of how hard it is, but well worth it.
Well, I just want to thank you so much. I read the book. I actually have an audio as well, so I listened to it and I love the podcast and different things. And some of the things you wrote about, instead of being self-care, it's about self-awareness, and how work can also be a form of self-care, has really, the practical lessons you provide, I think, are so helpful and just so practical in a way. I have a question from a student. The question is, working in the fashion industry, how important do you feel creativity is in your entrepreneurial journey? And how did your creativity help develop your own career?
I mean, I think with my business, you have to be creative. I think people, come to designers for their creativity. And so for me, it's 100% of what I have to be good at every day is creativity. And while I now thoroughly enjoy the business side of things, I still, at the end of the day, have to remember that people are counting on me telling you what the next best whatever is, in order to keep the company going.
Carrying on that question, someone says, what inspires your creativity?
It's changed. It used to be the fact that I would travel a lot for work and get to see new cultures and places and people's style. And clearly the last year that came to a halt. So really had to turn to art, music, books. I think it's pretty safe to say, if you kind of look at the brand, it's a very clear from an aesthetic point of view what our lane is. We're a little bit rock and roll, we're a little bit bohemian. So I'm never, gonna introduce a random sort of inspiration or aesthetic to the brand. And so I try and hone in on those types of women, whether they're, there's like a select group of women from the 60s and 70s that really, I feel, embody that, whether it's Jane Birkin or Bianca Jagger or Blondie, that are just like, pull them out of a page then, and you'd want to be wearing what they're wearing now with a modern, twist. And so I think for me, it's about them, and it's also about my customer. She inspires me, and how I see her put together things, and the feedback and the things she wants out of her products from us. Those are all different touch points of inspiration for me.
Thank you so much. The next question from student Irene is, when you're going through busy time periods in your life, which is probably almost every day with everything you're balancing, what do you do to stay inspired and avoid burnout?
So I touch on this on the book. So hopefully that chapter, if you have the book. But really at the end of the day, to me, I feel that burnout comes from either a toxic work environment, a toxic individual in that environment, or the loss of passion for what you've done. So as long as I can identify the source, and that does take some self-reflection, and it can be usually easily identified with, how do I feel after talking to that person? Do I feel better or worse? Am I more confident or less? Then I go, okay, good. What is my plan of attack for handling that? Is it a conversation? Is it, this makes me feel bad when you do X, Y, and Z? And so I think once you've assessed, I'm on video now. Hey, everybody. Once is it fine if I'm vertical like this, or does it mess with everybody's screen? Okay. I think that once you've sort of assessed, okay, here's the root of the problem, then going to handle it will make it so that your source of burnout has been cured, because you could sleep in, you can do a face mask, get a massage. It's not going to cure what's going on. What's going on is a dissatisfaction of some sort. And I keep going back to my early years when I worked like a dog with no money, no perks, and I loved every minute of it, and I never felt burnt out. So when I experienced it for the first time, I had to really hone in on like, well, why is this happening to me now? When I am getting a paycheck, when I do have a little bit of security, and when I figured out, who it was and got rid of that person, I went back to loving what I did and wanting to come into the office and be a part of things.
Thank you so much. A question actually has kind of in your earlier career, someone says, did you find yourself getting derailed or distracted by the work you had to initially do to make ends meet before being able to invest all of your time into your vision and goals? If so, how did you remain strong in your vision and purpose?
So in order to pay the bills in the very beginning, I was a stylist. So I didn't get distracted, but I knew that if I wanted to continue to have a clothing brand, which was before the bags,
Mhm.
that I had to pay the bills. And
Mhm.
so I was very focused on, I would compartmentalize, I was extraordinarily focused on everything that I had to do to be successful as a stylist and keep that paid gig going. And then I had an intern who didn't need to work, who was really talented, and she would help me on the Rebecca Minkoff side of things. So she
Mhm.
would keep these balls kind of floating while I went out and made money.
Amazing. All the stuff you had to do, what I love about your story is that you describe in detail everything you had to do and how you volunteered, even though when you worked with the first designer, when you came to New York, that you volunteered your time to get involved and network with other creatives. Just the hustle that you had is just so motivating. And like, there's time, if you want to do something, I feel like you can find a way to do it in all forms. So I really enjoyed that about the book too. Someone wrote, obviously, you work for yourself and created your business. What are some of the pros and cons of working for yourself and being your own boss?
So I'll tell a funny story. I I had a president, a former president of my company who grew up in the old days. She's a woman,
Mhm.
but she grew up in the days where there was no such thing as equality and men ruled the business. And while she fought to have things be more fair, it was, let's just say she's in the 60 age-year-old bracket. Things were just not fair. It
Mhm.
just didn't exist. And so I remember one day I brought my kid into work and I was on maternity leave, and I came into the office because when you're your own boss, you don't really get a maternity leave. And she said to me, "Must be nice you can bring your kid to the office when you want." And I lost my mind on her. And I said, "You know what? Our employees get to take a 3-month leave where no one bugs them at all. And then they get to come back to their job. And I've worked every day of this maternity leave. So, yes, my kid gets to come with me. And yes, that is nice, but it is certainly not a perk." And she was
Mhm.
like, "Meh." And it took her having a daughter, having a kid, and seeing her daughter struggle for her to be like, "You know what? I'm wrong and I'm sorry. I never had," she's like, I failed to realize that when I left the office back in the day, like there was no way to reach me because there weren't cell phones and people weren't going to fax me and ask me like, "Why aren't you doing anything?" She's like, "You don't ever get to turn off." And I'm seeing my daughter go through that, and I truly apologize. So the best and the worst things about being your own boss is you get to provide an environment where people have certain freedoms and perks that, good or bad, you might not ever have.
Mhm.
And the people that figure that out are geniuses if they can have that. That's a timing issue. And that's a buck stops with you. Like there's no one to go like this to if you're like, "Well, I don't know the answer to that." And sometimes that can be a scary place to be. When our business shrunk by 70% last year, the buck stopped with me and my brother. What are we going to do? Are we going to close this company and are 60 people going to lose their jobs? And we had to figure it out. There was no mama to call
Mhm.
for this one. So I always tell entrepreneurs, be prepared because yes, there's huge upside, but there's also big downside, and you have to be ready to experience both.
I really enjoyed how at the end of your book you put that, because one thing I always feel bad about is I do put my phone next to me. So when at night, I check it one more time. In the morning, I check it again. I've
Oof,
read so many
no, you
books.
got to turn that shit on airplane mode.
But
Bad for
then,
your head.
but there's sometimes other people say, "Oh, put it away, put it in a different room," and I'm like, "No, I can't. That just wouldn't work." I'd be just wondering what's going on with it. So I think how you're honest and saying like, yeah, put it on airplane mode, but in the morning you check it first thing, which because some people say you should do other things, and I'm like, oh, but
Well, you
I
know
don't know.
what? Now I don't check it in the
Oh, you
morning. I
don't?
don't check that
Uh-huh.
thing till 10 a.m. No, I've
Wow.
started said that's it. You know what? Like I will sit down with my coffee, which I'm still drinking, and at 10 a.m. the world gets, the 90 emails from the night before get to filter in.
I got to do that because that's something I'm still like doing first thing in the morning. A student question has, I want to purchase a pair of Rebecca Minkoff glasses from Dillard's department store for my sister. Your sunglasses are very well made, heavy duty and durable. Bravo. My question is, how are you able to select and manufacture these well made and durable sunglasses?
Well, it's a license.
Mhm.
So one of the biggest eyewear companies in the world, Safilo, is our licensor. So they make it and that's what they do all day long. I get to make it pretty, but they have to worry about the nightmare of making it beautiful and finely crafted.
And how do you choose your manufacturers? I know in the book, you have that chapter about the manufacturer, unfortunately, that collaborated your name and Kate Spade into Quebec Minkoff. So how do you now choose and do the quality control for your products?
It's different depending on if it's a license.
Mhm.
Normally we'll interview that manufacturer. We see what brands they do. We can clearly see the
Mhm.
products. And then if it's a new factory, they go through an intense scrutiny of products, of fair treatment of people, of following certain environmental regulations. So we sort of have a vetting system now at this point that's put in place. So the primary person in charge of that, who oversees production and development,
Mhm.
that's their role to do.
Thank you. Kind of going back to like the work-life balance, someone asked, how do you deal with taking vacations when you're still in the process of building your business?
Oh man, you don't. I don't have good advice for you. When you are building your business, if it's just you, um, it's going to fall on you and you might find yourself working while on vacation. I think I don't like to say I have regrets about what, starting out, because clearly what I did got me here. But looking back, I have a lot of young people that work for me that are in their 20s and they are really enjoying themselves on the weekends. They are going out, they are going to the Hamptons, whatever it is that I go, wow, I didn't do that. I just worked. And I was incredibly fulfilled, nor could I even afford to do any of the things these people do. But man, I could have like taken the weekend off. So um, I think while you're building your brand, until you get it into a place that's humming, you might be sacrificing vacations. I sacrificed Thanksgiving, having to get up in the middle of Thanksgiving with my soon to be mother in law. I'm like, I'm sorry, my website crashed. I have to go handle it. See you tomorrow, and so I think every time you're building something, it does take some sacrifice. And it might be that you are working, but you're on the beach.
A student asked, actually, her question is, Rebecca talked in her book about struggling to live in New York and living with some elderly women. During this time, did you ever feel unmotivated to continue? How did you overcome these feelings to continue on your journey?
Oh man, that happened a lot. And it's, it can still happen sometimes when you're faced with intense roadblocks, which you might go, well, what could possibly happen to her that she would feel that way? Well, let me tell you, when the bank threatens to take your company away and they have a lien on your apartment, you can maybe feel that way sometimes. Um, so I think the question I would ask myself is, okay, if I stop now, what would I do? And I could never answer that question. You know, I joke that like I'd like to be a birth worker in childbearing space, but then I know I'm not going to get out of bed if a woman goes into labor at 3 a.m. So there goes that career. And so I go, what would I do? What would I do? What would I do? And I couldn't answer an alternative question. So I was like, well, if there's nothing else I'd rather do, then I'm going to keep plowing at this. And until I can answer that question, um, I get up every day and keep going.
It's amazing the stuff that you've added to your portfolio in regards to, of course, the brand and the different accessories and different things you have. Also, the Female Founder Collective, this book. Hopefully, there'll be more books to come. So, which is so exciting. In your podcast, of course, which I thoroughly enjoy. Um, One of the other questions is, one of the rules from your book is rule number 2: go for purpose over payout. I learned that confidence in your purpose and worth can give you resilience during the hard times, and when you live your life with purpose, you'll always be satisfied. What steps can we take to figure out our own purpose? Can our purpose change over time? If so, did yours?
Yeah. So no one is born with just one purpose. I think you can see from my book that as much as I have a purpose to design, I also have a desire and love of helping others. And so I think the key to being fulfilled is how can you align all your purposes to all go in the same direction if you think that's possible. If you love animals and you want to be a carpenter, how does a percentage of your proceeds go to animal shelters or whatever it is? And so I think I was very much able to align my commitment to women and the next generation to what I do. I'm dressing women. If I'm going to make you look good, I want you to also be like, yes, I got a lot of money in the bank too. And so I could be satisfied while doing both and never feel like one's taking from the other. And so I think if you don't know your purpose, you're in college right now, it is a perfect time to explore, whether that's internships, even locally, you can begin to dip your toe and say, do I like being in news? Do I like being in logistics, whatever it is, or shadowing people? I think it's also good to know what you hate. You might get into something that's an internship or a paid job that you're like, I hate this. Well, that's great. Now you know that that's definitely not your purpose. And so use the time you have now to explore, to try stuff out. It doesn't mean you're flaky. You're just trying to figure out your groove. And then when you love it, you'll know. And I would also say, as you begin to graduate, I'm not sure what year you guys are in.
All years. So they're grads and
all
undergrads.
years.
So we could have someone here that just turned 18 to someone here who's in their grad program. So it's all years.
Okay. So your first job is not going to be your dream job. And be grateful for that, because you get to fail and mess up. And again, know what you love and know what you hate, so that you're that much smarter by the time you go into your second job or your third job, and you'll just be that much more able to navigate it. So by the time you do get your dream job, you're like a well-oiled machine, and you can produce and hopefully make, yourself and that employer happy.
That's such great advice. And also I would say, like, learn from all your jobs. My first job, which doesn't even exist anymore, I used to work at a video store 25 years ago. The skills that I learned from that, I still use now in all the jobs I've had as like directors of different programs. Next question is, you mentioned in your book the inspiration you felt from the community service work, like volunteering for the nonprofit creative space. What kind of inspiration and motivation do you feel that community service provides for creatives and for entrepreneurs? Does that really make a difference?
I mean, I personally think it makes a huge difference. I think people can become incredibly insulated and what's the word? Only thinking about themselves or the very immediate part of their lives. And then those problems, which can seem really big, pale in comparison to others. And I think when you sort of go, oh my gosh, there's a whole world out there. There's people that are suffering or can't have what I have or didn't get to go to college. And you just go, wow, I guarantee you. And I dare you to come back to me if you don't do something for someone else and feel better. And I think when you can expand your reach to helping others, not only does it feel good, but I think it comes back to you. And I will say that a lot of the problems we have in America are privileged problems to have. When you kind of peek outside and you're like, okay, they don't have water. They don't have access to whatever. Like, why am I crying that he didn't write me back on Instagram or whatever it is we're lamenting? And so I think that for me, it's just knowing that people have it less good and sometimes are not in control of their circumstances. And I like to help the people that are trying, that are like, I didn't get a fair shot, but I'm working my butt off to make a difference. And so for me, I just think it needs to be part of how we act as humans, not even because it's good for business, because I'm not getting more business because of all the work I do for women. Mm-hmm. I can guarantee you that. That'd be nice, but that's not why I do it.
We inspire those when for me as a customer also I'd love to know that I'm supporting brands that do that as well though. Question actually from your comment about the 10 a.m. Since you don't check your phone till 10 a.m., do you have a morning routine that helps you step into getting ready for the day?
I do. So we start our office hours since the pandemic start at 10. So every morning we have an executive call, and it's kind of like our day trading. What did we do yesterday? What are we going to do today? How are we going to catch up? What are we going to tweak in our messaging? Um, so on a normal day, I will wake up around 7:15. My husband and I switch off getting the kids ready for school and taking them. So I'll just give you the days that I take them and get them ready. They're dropped off by 8, and I usually take between 8 and 9 to exercise. And then 9 to 10 is kind of just my like, I can scroll on Instagram, I can extend my workout times, I can do something creative for myself, but I just go, I'm not checking email. Like that's a 10 a.m. activity. And so I definitely have a lot of coffee, probably too much, that any doctor would say. And I don't know, like that hour is just quiet time for me. Read a book, whatever it is. I think for me, I just need that. Like, okay, I'm moving into starting my day.
Thank you so much. Another question about is your company. As a fashion designer, how does your company work to make the fashion industry more sustainable? What kind of sustainability goals does your company have for the future?
Yes, this is going to be a very long answer, so I apologize if I sound long-winded. There's a lot of talk in the industry about sustainability, and it doesn't just mean one thing. So the way that we've chosen to attack it is multi-pronged, but also it takes a really long time. It drives me crazy when people are like, just be sustainable. I'm like, you have no idea. So on the factory front, when you go to your factory and you say, I want you to use FSC certified paper and packaging, that's a pretty easy ask these days. And whatever they do for you, they have to do for everybody, usually, because it doesn't make sense. And so now all of our boxes, paper, everything is FSC certified. And if there is any plastic that we're using, which is very tiny at this point, it is not virgin plastic. We're using recycled. And then our last area of, oh my gosh, can we please stop now, is if you buy anything of mine, it does come in a plastic bag today. I'm sure you experienced that when you bought that beautiful Talia top. And I'm trying to find compostable and or biodegradable that can stand up to heat and cold. It's not that as easy as it sounds. And so that's kind of the last stage of, within the materials we use, being more sustainable. On the product side of things, one of the statistics we found fascinating with our see now, buy now model is the biggest purveyors of waste within the fashion industry are fast fashion. It's your Forever 21s, it's your H&Ms, it's your Zara's, as good as it is. They have tons of extra inventory that they can't send anywhere except to either burn it or a landfill. We all know they've been exposed for some of their unfair labor and treatment of people. And where do they benefit? Well, they benefit, and you're going to those places because they've copied someone who's a designer. And so one of the things we found is when we moved to a see now, buy now model, they couldn't copy us. So you had to get it from us. If they did copy us, it was after we were out versus before. And secondly, with our see now, buy now model is we're not just creating inventory and crossing our fingers. We actually get the buyers in, we know our orders, we know what the editors and stylists want to push. From there, a buy is done that is far smarter and safer of what's going into stores versus how everyone else does it. Is they do the big fashion show, they spend all this money on samples, they cross their fingers, they do inventory that doesn't really have sales connected to it, and then it goes to die. And so I think if more brands adopted this, which is not, again, it's not easy to do, then you would see no one would be going into these fast fashion retailers because they could buy it direct. And you would see that their inventory control and the amount of SKUs they produce, like we're probably a tenth of what we used to do SKU count wise, because we're not guessing anymore. And so all of those steps kind of help. But again, you're going to order something from me today and it's going to arrive in plastic. So that's my big beef for next year.
And also, you've introduced two new things I think I've noticed. You have the borrow now. You can do a borrow, and then also you have some pieces that you purchase that are made to wear, correct? That they're custom, so it's not creating excess. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you for reminding me of those two. We did create a borrow button. So
Mhm.
again, for those who don't want to own something and they know they want to wear it once and return it, or wear it for a week and return it, we do have that functionality. And then we did partner with an incredible company called Resonance. It's when we launched kids and masks, that's the partner. But basically, nothing is made until you order it. Then it is printed on white fabric that is 95% biodegradable, and the inks are earth friendly, chemicals as well as human friendly. And basically, because you can print the garment, you're optimizing for fabric wastage. Whereas if you were to take a print, you have to have a lot more waste because you have to line the pattern pieces up to match. Just like, again, I'll use your example of your shirt. And so there's a lot of extra fabric that just goes into the trash. But when you print it, you can control all that. And so there's far less waste. And there's also no inventory.
Mhm.
And so that is probably one of the major expansions we're doing next year, is the amount of SKUs we're offering for women now in that space. And it also allows us to be size inclusive, which again, a lot of people can point fingers and why don't you offer more sizes? Well, every time you offer more sizes, you're also just taking a bet that a certain size, big or small, will sell. And then if it doesn't, you sit there with it. So this allows us to have the flexibility without an investment up front of, do I have a size 0 customer? Do I have a size 24 customer? I don't know. Let me guess.
Thank you. Another question is, in role number 12, you mentioned taking risks. Wanting to expand a business, how do you make the decisions on what risks to take and which to avoid?
So I think that these days, all the risk is about, will it expand? Will it help? Will it make our customer feel more connected to us? Um, and then I think we take a lot of risks with new technologies, whether it is the borrow button, or this company Resonance that we work with, or we minted and sold NFTs for our last fashion week. So I think we probably take risks all the time. I wouldn't say there's a risk we don't take. Anything stupid that could drive us out of business, we probably don't do, but I don't have a good example for you at that moment.
Question is, can you talk a little bit more about how one can ensure reciprocity when networking? When you're just starting off within an industry and feel like you don't have much to offer. In addition, how has your networking process changed as we move from towards the virtual environment?
Yeah, so I would say that you might not always be able to reciprocate with the person that helped you, but you can definitely pass that on to another. Or when you offer, you say, thank you so much for helping me. Is there anything I can do for you or your organization? That CEO or senior manager who's just helped you might have a receptionist who's going to look up to what you're doing. And so when you say, how can I help you or your organization? That's a big deal. Or I had a meeting with Gary Vaynerchuk, if you're familiar with him. He's a marketing and media company and genius. And he said, you know what you can do to support me? Buy something that I make. And he's like, I have a wine company. There was nothing I could do for him after he spent an hour with me and my brother, right? Great, I can do an Instagram story. And I went online and I spent $40 and I bought some wine. And I said, thanks, I can't wait to enjoy, because he gave me an hour of his time. So what could you do might not always be, again, equal, but when you're sort of opening that dialogue, it does open up a lot of ways to be creative. As far as networking in this virtual age, I would say that, you probably all know each other, everyone who's tuning in today, but you could probably all network and find something to help each other with right now. And so I speak a lot, especially virtually. And I'm always telling people, get into the chat, start offering stuff up like I need a, I wanna, I have a, and you'll begin to see the trading going. And it's a great way to just meet new people. And hopefully we'll all be back in person soon.
Thank you so much. You talk about this in the book, but if you want to add anything, is how do you or do not balance the work-life family balance?
Yeah, so let's just clear up a huge source of misinformation. Balance does not exist for men or for women. Men have never had it either. So the fact that women thought like, well, I'm going to join the workforce and I'm going to have balance, just take that away. I firmly believe in boundaries, and your boundaries are going to change, and they're going to flex and grow and shrink at different times of your life. And so, I say to people just, starting out, like, get ready to work all the time and have no balance. Like, you are building your career, you are building your platform on which you hope to have a successful life. When you have a couple more employees, or you've shown that you can do X amount of things, you can begin to get a little bit more flexible. Then you might have a scenario where you have a kid and then things have to get flexible. And how do you, I talk about having no maternity leave, but I also got to have my kid visit me so I could breastfeed them every day. So I think you'll begin to understand where your trade-offs are and what are your no-go zones. And then sometimes you have no control of that. Fashion week, everyone in my family knows mom's not here and she is not paying attention to us. And it's, 2 weeks of their lives every, twice a year where they know I'm checking out and I'm going to play dinosaurs with you, but I'm not really going to be thinking about dinosaurs. And so I think it's on you at each one of these phases as you grow to continue to say, okay, good. What are my boundaries? And what I love about Gen Z is they're very clear in telling me their boundaries. Please don't contact me after 6 p.m. Please don't text me on a weekend. And while that's really annoying as a boss, I respect it because I'm like, yes, they're putting their boundaries in. And if they're getting their work done and they're not leaving stuff hanging, then yeah, awesome. I don't want to talk to you either. I want my weekend and my nights. So I think that I tested things a lot. What's uncomfortable to me? And then what sacrifices do I need to make in order to change that?
Thank you so much. Because sometimes I know people have that preconception of balance. And I love how you said it's not about balance, it's about being flexible and balancing and trying to do what you can with the different areas of your life. Just one or two more questions. Thank you so much for answering all the students' questions. Just a few final comments and questions is, I know you just wrote this book in 2021, or released in 2021. Are there new lessons you'd like to incorporate in this book or you wish you had added now that it's been out? You've talked about it.
Ooh. What would I have added? I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I would have added.
That's great. And then your company and how you sell things and your use of social media and influencers, and the way you've created your stores, is there a next big idea or challenge that you're looking forward to in the next year or so to work on?
So we have a couple of new categories launching. We're launching home in January, which is top of mattress, so sheets and pillows and deck pillows. We have 2 shoe collaborations out this side of the year, one with Sperry, one with Emu, and also our second fragrance. And so there's just a lot of new things we're pushing. And then our website relaunches next Wednesday, and it's beautiful and just amazing. And so I think we're just focusing on those new launches.
That's amazing. That's exciting. I'm just like, ooh, gift ideas. And finally, as this is, we're a center for entrepreneurship, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs? If you had one piece of advice for entrepreneurs who are about to start their journey.
That you need to love what you do so much that it is enough of a reward that you get to do that every day, and that you are not doing this for fame and money, because that might or might not come. And you have to ensure that that passion is so strong that when you are knocked flat on your back over and over and over again, that you're going to say, I still love it. I'm going to do it. Because I know of not one entrepreneur who hasn't experienced that. And the ones that can take it and take how tough that can be are the ones that succeed. And if you think you have a weak stomach, or you think you don't like confrontation or drama or being a leader or running employees or whatever, if you're just like, ooh, I don't know, then there's nothing wrong with being an entrepreneur. There's nothing wrong with taking your talent and your skills somewhere and giving that your all and treating it like it's your own without all the added stress that comes with it. But just be really sure you love what you do, because it's going to take everything, and it's going to take that sort of tenacity to hold on when it's a rocky ride.
Thank you. And I love this as a final question, just got put in the chat, is not business related, but how do you, what advice do you have for someone who wants to improve their style?
I would say start with a Pinterest board and start putting together who you like and why you like that style. And, take an assessment. Some people will say, well, anybody can wear anything. And you totally can. There are also rules of, just like there are rules in photography with perspective and lighting, there are things that are naturally going to make people with certain body shapes and types look better or worse. And so I would begin to go and say, okay, I have big shoulders and a large chest. What are the types of garments that make me look better or highlight that or take away from that? And I would say, spend a weekend going to a place that has a lot of options and just trying stuff on and taking a picture, because it's always different in a picture, and being like, do I like that? Does that make me feel good? And for me, I've discovered I know what works. I know what makes me feel confident. I usually don't stray very much. And then sometimes a new trend will hit. I was like, I will never wear high-waisted pants. Ugh. And now I went into my closet and I tried on some pants from a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh my God, they're so low. Like, you can see my underwear. What was I thinking? So I would just say, be aware of what's happening style wise, but experiment, because there's no one size fits all. I'll never be seen in a crop top. I just can't do it. And it's not the luck I drew. But many women love crop tops. So I think, experiment, make your Pinterest board and see what works for you and makes you feel good.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for this session. It has been amazing. Thank you to the students also for such amazing questions and preparing for this as well. It's been a pleasure having you, Rebecca, on this call. So thank you again. Also, let your target representative know I did purchase the books. Oh, Ryder, do you want to mute yourself?
Target representative, you were saying?
Oh, in regards to, you asked if I purchased the books from Target. So I did purchase them for Target for this book club. So I did take that into consideration. So let them know that I did purchase them from Target. And awesome. Also, we're a university in Nevada. And so if you're ever in Las Vegas, feel free, if we could do anything for you here, feel free to reach out to us, and happy to host you if you're back in the Vegas area. Love to have you have a store here if you want. I kid. But thank you so much, Rebecca, for the session today. It has been amazing. And thank you, the students, also for participating. So again,
thanks,
everyone,
everybody.
Thank you again. Thank you for the amazing book.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you, everyone. Bye.